Good morning. So today we're gonna repack our bearings. I'm gonna show you how to take everything apart, clean it all up, make sure you got fresh grease. First thing you wanna do is get your wheels off the ground. Me personally, I got a forklift, so it's a little easier for me. If not, you know, use your jack, put you some jack stands under there, pull the wheels off and get after it. Here we go. Some of the tools you're gonna need to do this, man, is a rubber mallet, impact just for the lug nuts on your wheels. May have to use a screwdriver at some points and a crescent wrench. You can just take a rubber mallet, kind of tap on this cap. It just comes right off. Oh yeah, definitely time for new grease. Once you get that off, kind of clean it up. We'll take our screwdriver, pop off this little piece here, keeps that nut locked in place. And then take your crescent wrench and unscrew this nut off of the spindle. It actually keeps your hub in place. You always want to check and make sure that this ain't too loose and it ain't too tight. You kind of got to find that sweet spot. Too loose, wind up wobbly wheels and essentially your wheel coming off. Too tight, make your bearings work too hard and get too hot. So you gotta find that sweet spot. Once you get that outer bearing out, you want to use a piece of wood or something that'll protect that bearing in the inside and kind of knock it out from this side going down, and in turn it'll knock the seal out. You can get that bearing out, clean everything up. I recommend to buy new seals every time you do this, because a lot of the times you'll mess them up and you want to make sure your seal's doing its job. So here we go. So our inner bearing, which is a little bigger, came out just fine. We'll clean all of this stuff up. This is your seal. Some people might say you can reuse them. They're not that much, man. I paid $6 a piece about for them, so you're looking at about 25 bucks for it. Just make sure you got a proper seal doing its job. Now it's time to take the brake cleaner, clean all of this up, clean all of the grease out of here, and continue on. Just trying to get the excess, majority amount of the old grease off first. Now we're gonna take our brake cleaner. Just got it from AutoZone. You know, works really well, cleaning up parts. It's way on grease. Saturated really good. And just start cleaning. So you get all of the grease out. Check your bearings. Make sure that they're still spinning good. There's no debris got caught up in there and ruined them. If that is the case, go down to the parts house, buy new bearings. Just replace it with fresh, but I'm pretty sure that these are still good. So we got our components all cleaned up. I'll show you guys another thing that you can look for, you know, while dealing with this. You know, you're gonna have a little bit of play in it. You don't wanna have a whole lot. You know, if you're getting around, you know, 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch, you know, they're probably bad. And then just hold it in your hand, spin it, make sure everything's spinning smooth. That one seems fine. Same thing on the smaller one. Gonna have a little bit of play, but not too much. You know, spin it. Everything's spinning smooth. They're ready for new grease. Now I just gotta clean all of the grease out of the inside of the hub. And then you wanna clean your spindle up. That's the good thing about a brake cleaner. There's no such thing as using too much. It's not gonna ruin anything. It's not gonna hurt anything. Just spray it on and wipe it off. Okay, like I said, now we got our bearings all cleaned up. We got our hub all cleaned up on the inside. And we got our spindle nice and shiny. Now it's time to repack the grease, put everything back together. You want to take your bearings, and this is just a little setup that helps you pack your bearings and get it all in there. You know, you can do it by hand, but if you do have one of these, it does speed up the time. Just dig that thing out. Make sure you got plenty of grease up in there. You know, just kind of get it all in there, and, you know. Do the same thing to the smaller bearing. Just make sure you pack that grease really well up in there. And you're also gonna wanna put grease inside of your hub. Not a whole lot of big old globs, but you know, you just wanna make sure you have plenty of lubrication in there. And even put a little bit on the outer part of that spindle, just to make sure everything's turning really smooth. This is the smaller one, so I'll just do it by hand. You know, but just want to make sure and get it good on the inside of that bearing, outside the bearing, and all around. You know, this is high temp grease. Get your grease all up in there, you know, everything lubricated. Grease all up in here, you know. So when you put it back together, this is just high temp grease, man, that I bought from ASAP Trailers down the road. You can find it at any trailer spot. You know, you want to get high temp because, you know, hauling weight and moving freight, bearings and hubs tend to get hot. You got your inner bearing all greased up, fresh grease. Now you just want to pop that seal back in there. It should. That outer bearing just slips right into the top of that hub. And then you just want to slide your hub back onto the slide back on. And push that thing in there. You see, I got it super lubricated with grease. You want to clean up around these threads before you put that washer back over it and that nut. Now we're just gonna tighten everything back up. This washer only goes on one way. It's kind of self-explanatory if you were wondering. Thread on your nut. And like I said, man, you want to get it snug, you know, finger tight. And then just take your crescent and just snug it up just a little, you know, to where you don't have play, but it's also not too tight. Where you're spinning, you know, that way your bearings don't get too hot and this don't get too loose, and your whole hub and tire comes off while you're rolling down the road. This locking mechanism, little lock nut, just kind of slips on. There. Make sure that it's tight. There we go. Now put your cap back on it, wheel back on it, and you're good to go. Repack bearings.